Hello, everyone. On August 1st, 2022, 2022, Better Call Saul, Season 6, Episode 11, Breaking Bad, premiered on AMC. Hello, everyone. I'm Richard, and my co-host, is
Jay.
Jay. There he is, the main man. And just a few notes before we begin. Rewatch Talk Live is a weekly podcast. We will enthrall listeners with our enticing discussions and views as we regurgitate movies and streaming shows. Jay and I are dedicated to our rewind, and we do more than a deep dive. We go balls deep into each subject we explore. So, right now, as I say, today we revel in season 6, episode 11, Breaking Bad, starring Bob Odenkirk, with special appearances by Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul, and the cast: Marion, Carol Burnett, Francesca, Tina Parker, Jeff, Pat Healy, Buddy, Max Bickelhop, and Mike Jonathan Banks. Written and directed by Thomas Nows. So go into it, Jay. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Richard. How about yourself? How's your day
Ooh,
going?
it's not bad, my friend. Not bad. Got some football in before we get started here. It's a football Sunday, the first week of the NFL.
Yes,
So far, so good. But of course, this program is the highlight of anyone's day. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree with that 1%.
Yes. So go ahead, Jay, and tell us about this week's Coldplay.
All right,
Before
this
we get to it,
Coldplay.
before we get to it, how's
Go
your
ahead.
dog doing? Because you said your dog had a little bit of a mishap this week.
Yeah. We just had a little hiccup, but she's healing better. I mean, just trying to keep keep her nice and comfortable. So thanks for asking.
All right. Well, then get into the Coldplay or the cold open, as they say. I guess I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever they call it.
Yes, it's like you said, it could be Coldplay, Cold Open, but it comes out this time. It was starting off in color, where we see someone in some type of vehicle, like it looks like an RV vehicle, moving around in a bag and everything, and just tied up. And we see that the car like was moving, and then it got moved into the roads and looks like into the desert. And it sounded, I mean, for the voice, you can sound like it was Jimmy moving around,
Well, we
saying
don't got to beat
words.
around the bush here, Jay. It was Saul in the back of the RV. I mean, there's no mystery, there's no suspense. We know what it was. So
Yes,
it was interesting to see this opening because it goes back to, I think you brought it up, this episode 8 of season 2, which was called Better Call Saul, which is, I guess, apropos that this one is called Breaking Bad.
exactly. Which makes it really exciting to kind of see what this episode is going to be all about. It looks like it's like a side story of some things that we didn't see, or what could have, or what happened in between some of the scenes that were in the Breaking Bad episode. So the Coldplay kind of starts off and it actually ends where the door slams and you can see that it's the RV that was in Breaking Bad with the bullet holes in the scotch tape, and that's when we get ready to start off the this episode.
Right. Yeah, and when you see the old, the old thing with the duct tape over the ski holes, that brings back memories too.
It does. It really does. It really does. It makes you wonder. I mean, it gets you excited. It really gets you excited. I mean, it got me excited when I saw that some of the characters that was in Breaking Bad might show up in this episode, which really makes it really exciting. Don't you agree?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we were probably waiting for the appearance of some of these characters for 6 years.
Exactly. Exactly. Trying to see if we can get into the Breaking Bad universe. Breaking Bad
Right.
universe and Better Call Saul universe. We've
Right.
been
And
wanting
it's
the connections.
and then we find that Saul is back at the gravesite there in the desert.
Yep. Asking if you're with Nacho or are you part of Lalo, which those two names has become very popular in the Better Call Saul universe.
Yeah. Well, we were able to actually see who these people were. They were just names thrown out during that season, that episode 8 back in season 2. And now we have faces and backgrounds to these characters.
Exactly. Which is great. Which is great. But then it goes into after the Coldplay and it starts off the this episode. We get into the black and white version of the start of this episode, which it starts with Francesca.
Oh, hold on. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Is that where that ends? Or do we go back? Or is that later on they go back into the RV and Saul's asking too many questions?
Yep.
All right. Go ahead.
It actually, that's one thing with this, one thing about this episode, and that's one thing I think we're going to be talking about when we continue going on with our conversation with the rewatch, is that it goes back and forth a lot in this episode of the black and white of Saul after he gets runs away or goes out to Omaha, and he goes back to the black and the gray, excuse me, the color. So it goes back
Right.
and forth a lot in this episode, which is
Yeah.
good. I mean, I enjoy it a lot.
Right. But anyway, while we're here, I mean, we do go back and like I said, this is what we didn't see beforehand was that what's new is that Saul is now in the RV and he's asking, "Oh, this is where you cook your meth," and and we have, and the thing is Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul don't lose a beat of their characters. It's been a long time since they played them, well, except for the commercial last year for the Super Bowl, but
Right.
still, they're beat for beat. They're just game on with Walter White and Jesse, right? I mean, they're just back and forth, bickering like an old married couple. And, you know, and he grabs that. He pulls that old trick that Jesse did. He just picks up that beaker and goes, "What's this?" "Oh, I mix my, I do this with all stuff, But now Jesse has the knowledge of how, no, you don't do that with that beaker. That's what this beaker, this is a flask or whatever it is. And he has the knowledge and he's showing. So, and Walter's kind of, I guess, a little bit impressed by him that he kind of picked up something that he told him, but still. And Walter keeps saying, "Don't tell him, no, we don't know. No, not too many details." And I like what Jesse said. "Well, don't you think taking off our mask was a little bit too much too?" Throwing it, like,
Exactly.
wait a minute, you don't want to tell him stuff, but yet you had us take off the mask. So, I mean, which is par for the course how these characters work. So go ahead. Well, I mean, that's what your impression. What were your impressions of when they were back there and Gene was and Saul was just messing around, trying to get info.
It was. I mean, it was really good. I mean, it was really funny seeing how how they were, like you mentioned about them bickering and everything, and seeing them back into their characters and everything. So it really brought entertaining concept of seeing that part and them talking in the RV, kind of curious after the fact, after they made the discussion with Walt and Jesse. So it was good. It was really good.
And just to close that out, we have the ultimate RV moment when they're trying to start it.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, they did have that part on there.
Okay. Well. Okay. What? Saul calls shotgun. The RV doesn't start as usual, and they're talking about flooding it again as they always do.
Yes.
So then they have to sit there and wait for this thing to. Remember how temperamental the RV was, Jay. It was a very central. It was. It had its own temperament. Little beast there. So while they were waiting around, they were still talking more, trying and Saul's trying to get more, talking to him and stuff. And then Saul finally says, "Try it again. We don't want to get stuck out here in the desert and not be found for 1,000 years." So
Right.
they started up and they drove off. So that's how basically how I mean that we skipped that a little bit, but so what? It all goes. It's all one big cohesion thing that happened with it's an added thing for Better Call Saul with them in the RV. We didn't see that before. Before they were just in front of it, and then that was all we knew from Breaking Bad. But now we have a little bit more detail, which is always fun to see. When you get a little bit like like a bonus or a director's cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I do.
So what else happened in this Coldplay then, Jake?
Uh, After that, I believe after that, then we kind of start off the episode where Francesca is actually in some type of motel with two dudes. Looks like doing some type of work on a sink that was not really uh, draining. So it seemed to me that with this black and white, it seems to me Francesca was maybe a landlord or a manager or something of this motel, tried to see if she can repair this plunger and try to get the whatever was in there. And she mentioned to the dudes, it's like, you can't put stuff in this thing. I mean, what are you doing? And she was kind of explaining, and the dudes was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about as far as, and he mentioned something. It's like, okay, Narca. And
Well, she didn't say
was,
stuff. She said you can't put your marijuana seeds and stuff in. I mean, you got to
yeah,
be. I mean, she was specific about what it was. It makes that way when you say narca, it makes sense when you say it. I mean, it wasn't just stuff; it was drug paraphernalia stuff that they were putting in the sink.
right.
And you can tell they were kind of buzzing. And you
Oh
get
yeah,
the,
they
and you
had that
can get
look.
the impression that she's like does probably run this, maybe the manager of this complex, and she has that's part of her duties is to work on units when stuff goes wrong. But anyway, continue.
Uh, I think after that, what happens is that she looked at her, I should say, she looked at the clock on the stove, and she pretty much had to head out and leave. And she seemed like she was rushing out. Seemed like she had some type of appointment or
Right,
somewhere to go.
right.
So she
And you
goes
remember?
out there.
And you remember what the clock said?
No, I mean, I know it's like two something.
2:06.
There you go. There
So
you
we know
go.
that she has to leave. We don't know where she's going to yet.
No,
But but
no.
then she has this great conversation when they're trying to say you just can't leave, and she goes, "You got to do it yourself." And she says, you could use a plunger. And she goes, "All you do
Up
is you
and
take
down.
it." And she goes, "And that's something you're very familiar with, that movement." Did you catch that,
Up
Jay?
and down. Yes, I did catch that up and down movement.
Yeah. She still got her little snappy personality as she did when she was working with Saul.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that was good to see.
It was. It was. I mean, she went through a lot in these just her character in general, as far as she being a DMV worker. Then after DMV worker, then she worked with Kimmy and Jimmy as a secretary. And then from there, then she worked with just Jimmy slash Saul. So she's been around the block, and she always had that little spice in her every time we see her portray Francesca in the Better Call Saul universe,
Right,
which is
right.
cool, which is very cool. So after she goes and drives, she feels like she's being followed. So she went around in a circle a couple of times just to make sure that she's not getting followed from anyone, the feds or anyone else. And then I want to ask you, did you notice when she stopped at a stoplight, they kind of did a little shadow of like a almost like a Better Call Saul type of billboard on the bench, but it was not Better Call Saul. Now it was William or Bill. I think he was a, a defense lawyer, and now he looked like he's changed sides. So did you notice that when you saw it?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
So after I think what happens from there, she goes and drives off into some type of a deserted gas station, and she was just waiting at her car. She's still looking at the clock. She was looking at that clock and seeing the time, and it was like 3 o'clock, and she was looking at the phone, and then she saw 3:01. She's like, okay. She's getting ready to start up the car and get ready to head out, and all of a sudden, the phone rang. So it's like she kind of like, oh, she had that feeling like, man, I mean, she didn't want to take the call or pick up the phone, but she took it, and we found out the other person on the other side was Jimmy slash Gene slash Saul, all the characters, and they talked for a little bit, and he wanted to get some the 411 of what's going down over there in Albuquerque while he's over there in Omaha, and but as we know, Francesca has a little spicy flavor, so she's not talking until she gets her money. So that was pretty funny that Gene actually after that mentioned to her where the money is, and it's always interesting how these characters how they hide their money. I mean, we see that a lot in Breaking Bad a little bit, and we see some of it here, but how he had to elaborate and be specific. It's like turn right, you see the little New Jersey concrete, looks like a New Jersey concrete, get the wire, pull the wire, and all this. So it's interesting. How about yourself? Did you kind of was interested on how they actually how he explained himself to how she had to get the money?
Right. Also, on her way to this, she was being followed again. I mean, because she's always looking in her mirror and she's noticed that she's being followed and on her way. So, it wasn't just, she's still being followed by the feds. And did you know that? And I thought so too, but the gas station is the same gas station that they used when Jesse was at the was it there at the RV and gave that girl the meth. It's the same gas station, but now it's a breakfast bar place. It's not a gas station anymore.
I see. And
And
they had an ATM. They had an ATM there also.
yeah, well, they did, but it's the same thing. But there's no gas pumps anymore. It's just a breakfast bar, and it just and with the money it reminded me of when they did the drops when Jesse and Mike did the drops, and all the money was hidden here and there. They had to, it wasn't just out in plain sight. They had to dig for it and whatever else to find their bags of money, the cold drops. So it was in it. So she got her money and she came back to the phone and continued her conversation with Gene.
Exactly. And that conversation pretty much went different directions. She explained what's happening out there in Albuquerque, how some people got their money and other folks got cleared. She mentioned where Jesse, they said Jesse's vehicle was over on the border. So it seems like the only people they're really looking for now is just himself, which is Jimmy. They're still looking for him. So, and it kind of represents what she mentioned about the car over on the border that just kind of goes back into the our show or movie that relays it with El Camino. So it's pretty cool where all these shows and everything kind of mix together. So it's great you're gonna kind of see all these things that's happening. So that's one cool thing that Francesca mentioned to Gene. But I think the most important thing, and you might want if I miss something, just let me know. But I think the key point on this phone conversation that Francesca told Gene is that Kimmy called Francesca to see how she's doing and to see if everything is okay with her. And then Kimmy did mention how Jimmy was doing also. And you can see Gene's facial expression and his kind of he like his eyes perked up and his seemed like his voice changed a little bit. That he was like, "Oh, Kimmy called." He was kind of getting happy, a little excited, and then from there, she actually pretty much asks, "What did you tell her?" And she said nothing. It's like didn't say really nothing, but he was pretty excited that Kim did call Francesca and ask about Jimmy and see how he's doing after everything has happened to him and actually Francesca too.
Well, that wasn't a lot of important things that went on here. And Jimmy's not looking for Jesse. He doesn't. It just came up. He was just wanting to know where everybody was, who didn't, who got caught, and who wasn't. I mean, the money that was supposed to be that she's supposed to have access to got seized down in the Cayman Islands or wherever. It got all that money that she was supposed to have is now gone. Also, he was disappointed that all his that all his businesses were closed down, and even his beloved laser tag was gone, and that seemed to bother him a lot too. What, my laser tag? And all his nailing salon business were gone. So his whole life in Albuquerque is gone because there's nothing for him actually to come back to anymore because it's all his businesses are gone and everything is gone. And yeah, and so you're right. I mean, it was good to see that. And I'm sure that kind of caught Jimmy by surprise that Kimmy called Francesca. But, she can't be calling Jimmy because she just probably don't know how to get a hold of Jimmy. And plus, she doesn't want to get underneath the radar of the feds either.
You're right, exactly.
So that was an interesting conversation. It lets us know what's going on back home or whatever, back in Albuquerque, real quick. A real good synopsis of what's going on since Jimmy went on the lam to Omaha.
Yep. But from there, you can start off the next part after that. I'll let you go from there.
What was next? I don't know what was next, Jay.
Oh, actually, from there, we see that Jimmy / Gene leaves that location where when you mentioned about the
he beats up.
restaurant.
Yeah, he tries to call Kimmy. That's right.
Exactly.
And then he gives up on that, and then he beats up on the. He takes a lot of aggression out on the phone booth. That's right. Yeah, he tore it up. He went to town on it. Yeah. So,
but prior to that, I like the angle of the scene they show with the crossroad, which was very nice. I love the angles. That's one thing about the show is that they really do come up with really good camera angles, and they show one when Saul was pretty much the terminology was that he was at the crossroad, and he was kind of making that decision to see if he wanted to give a chance to call Kim or not. And he was at that crossroad, and he decided to. And like you mentioned, when he decided to, they were on that phone, seemed like, and you saw an angle. Was really not. The conversation was not going so well. It was not going so well. He got really agitated, upset right after that situation, broke the telephone booth and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and he looked like he was a little bit frustrated from this phone call with Francesca anyway. So.
Yeah. Yeah. He just has no connections, nobody really he's really all alone, pretty much. He's all by himself. He has really nobody except for himself. From there, I believe the next scene comes up where we're still in the black and white, and we see him back working at the Cinnabon company. Then we kind of see him meeting with Jeff, our famous Jeff again.
Yeah.
And with Jeff was kind of wondering what the heck you doing here. From the last conversation they had, it seemed like everything was pretty much set. Where
Where did
Gene,
you? Wait, where? Okay, where are you? What you skipped ahead and didn't tell anybody?
no, I mean this is what happens after the drive and after he was on the phone. This is
Yeah,
what happened.
but you didn't say where he met Jeff at.
Oh, he met Jeff. He was actually at the Marion's house.
See, you just went from Cinnabon to Jeff, and we didn't know what happened in between.
Oh, go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying I did. It's just like you right. Well, I'm just saying no. Just continue. I got lost. That was me. I got lost because you said I didn't think I remembered Jeff showing up at the Cinnabon. That's all. I just didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Because you said
no
Cinnabon, then you said Jeff, and Jeff's like, "What are you doing here?" Well, I didn't. So it kind of threw me off a little bit. I don't know. It was just me, maybe. But yeah, it does go with him working at the Cinnabon. And then he's at Marion's. But the thing is, this is really, well, Jeff pulls up to the house and he sees Gene's cars out front, right? He pulls up in his cab and Gene's car's out there. And then what happens is he goes inside and Jimmy, they're talking about cat videos again. She's like, the cat videos is funny, and they're talking. And then they leave, and Marion's like, "Oh, hey, she feels left out. She's hurt. I think her feelings are hurt when they left because she thought they were having a great time talking about the computer that Jeff got her." And she goes, "Well, you just tap in this little box, and there's funny cat videos."
Right, from YouTube.
Yeah. Well, probably, yeah. You know how easy it was to find funny cat videos. And I guess the most interesting thing in there also was that when Gene says to her, "Yeah, it's like America's funniest home videos, and you're the host," and she goes, "Well, that would be something." I mean, if you know who Carol Burnett is, you know how apropos that is too, as well, because she could pull that off because she's a comedian herself. So I mean, that all went hand in hand. That whole that dialogue went hand in hand. I mean, it all fits together. That's part of the writing process when they write these things. How tight that is. They say things that actually mean stuff, no matter how off the cuff it is. You might think it's a throwaway line, but it's not, because it all means something to their character or to the person in real life as well. Okay, and then Carol Burnett says, "Oh yeah, I could have done that. I mean, why not?" I mean, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I do. It's fun. Very funny how they use dialogue like that. It's very, very funny.
So I just thought, that was like, yeah, look who you're talking to. I mean, right? I mean, it all makes sense. But and then all of a sudden, Gene's like, "Well, let's go talk us out in the garage," because and she's kind of disappointed because you can somebody look on her face that she's like, "What? I thought we were all going to hang out and watch cat videos or and they just leave her behind. And Jeff's trying to explain, look, it was a used computer. It didn't cost, it was on, because he thought he was going to get busted for spending too much money at once, right? That was his worry. And they get in the garage, and then, Gene kept saying, "Shut up, shut up," just because he keeps blah 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 blah, and he's like, "Shut up, I don't want, that's not why I'm here," because like you said, it's like you just go back to what you were saying, and it's just like, "Oh, you didn't want, if I saw you walking, I go to the other side of the street," right?
That's what that's kind of why he was wondering about him being here.
Why are you here? Because you that was it, and
I think what I mean from there, I believe Gene asked Jeff some questions, and I guess one of the questions was his work hours as a taxi driver.
Right.
asking him his hours to kind of find out what his hours were. And he told him his hours. And then
Right.
Gene kind of explained to him, get these particular hours for it. So it's like something something is going down. It seems like something is going down, and it seems like Jeff Jeff kind of didn't really want. He was wondering about it, but then he kind of got the idea that Gene seemed like we're back in business. It's like we're back. I think that's kind of how it leads off, is that we're back.
Well, he asked about the time. He asked. He tells him to get some barbiturates. Is that right?
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
that's an important thing there, Jay. I mean, that's not something you just go to buy off the counter.
No, no. He was scratching his head. Like, what the heck?
Yeah,
Why you want to do that?
we go from taxi driver changing his hours to, and there they are getting the drink, like they're back in business. So there they are with getting drinks. So he wants him to get barbiturates and change his schedule. And so you don't know. So something's going on, and they're going to need drugs for some reason. So it's an interesting. So who knows? So now what's Gene up to, right? I mean, now what's he up to? I mean, he just can't leave well enough alone, can he?
Nope, he sure can. He sure can. Not at all. He kind of that's how Gene is. He's kind of thinking off the thinking off the rails and kind of wondering what's the next scam that he's going to have to do and work on. So this is where we kind of lead on to the next steps of Gene's idea, and that's where we kind of get a start of it when we're at the looks like at a bar, but they were doing some type of karaoke where we see Gene going and singing his one of his songs, which I wonder if Richard, if you kind of got information on the song. I know it was like something with a fine girl. I'm not a singer, so but I know Gene was singing it too, and everything was pretty funny. I think his character says that he's not really a singer, but he'll sing if he needs to. He'll sing what he needs to. So that was a pretty funny part, and it seemed like we had a guy at the bar singing with him, kind of going and everything and rooting him on, and then all of a sudden he kind of claps at him. It's like, good job, good job.
Right, right.
There you go.
Yeah, so he's doing
Fine girl.
yeah. So he's
It's
doing
in my head now.
Yeah, so now he's doing karaoke. And the guy at the bars, we find out that they're together. I mean, and this guy's he keeps losing money. Jimmy keeps losing money to him. But
Exactly.
but is Jimmy actually drinking, Jay?
No, like you mentioned it before, he wasn't really, I should say, he portrayed himself of drinking, yes, but he wasn't. He kind of had that, what we mentioned before, kind of draining whatever is the liquid into the little pouch of liquid. I think you put the word, you set the name of it.
The water bottle. It's a hot water bottle or a cold water bottle, but it's very old school. I don't know, I'm just saying that's, anyway, yeah, and whatever, he's got this mechanism where he just can suck the liquid right out of that glass and to make it look like he's actually drinking along too.
Yep, with his buddy, which is his buddy at the bar.
Now here's what I was thinking too, though, as that hot water bottle that works fine when you're doing little shot glasses, but if they were doing beers, that thing would fill up in no time. He would have to take off to the bathroom every so often and empty out his not only his artificial bladder, I guess, but that thing wouldn't be able to hold a whole bunch of beers in it.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, he played it smart. He played it smart, getting something very small, little shot glasses between them, and just having a good time and doing little tricks and little antics and games and bets. That's what it looks like they were doing. Gene with this guy, this Mark. I'll call him a Mark. With fun and games, I guess you could say, and betting on things. So they seemed like Gene was just engaging with them just to kind of get connected with them and kind of be friends, which that's what Gene is good at. He's a really good talker. You can almost seem like he's always like a, a like a buddy. You can always see he's always a buddy with somebody. So that's how this scene was going with them and getting him drunk. That was the whole gist of this whole thing was get him drunk, get him a little tipsy to make him pretty much be, I guess you could say, a little bit not himself, a little bit more confusing, a little bit out of sorts. So I don't want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything before I was going to head over to the cab part.
Everything's cool, man. You know, he was like you were saying, and Jimmy was just playing his mark. And then they left, and then and Jimmy acts like this guy pulled another fast one on him by not by another trick and lost some money. They lost it. He lost a cab, which he didn't care. He didn't want a cab anyway, but
right.
And then he sneaks around the corner and empties out the hot water bottle, and he's in Jeff's cab. Jeff offers him a bottle of water, which the guy takes, which nowadays is 101, something you don't do. You don't take a bottle of water from anybody you don't know.
Yep.
And you find out why that is, because what you might be drinking is drugged with barbiturates, right?
Yes.
And you actually pass out. Because when you get home, the cab driver takes you inside, it helps you get inside. And then you leave the door open, and then the cab driver puts tape over the door latch, so when it closes, it doesn't lock. And that just sets up for Buddy to do his thing.
Yes, Buddy. Exactly. That's right.
But Buddy comes walking in, and Buddy has a dog. And the dog is more than a prop, though, Jay. I mean, you're thinking no one's going to think nothing of a guy walking his dog at night. But the dog is also there to have Buddy's back. Just
in case, if any come lingering on. But Gene is always smart. He kind of always research all these people, so he has the idea that all these people are alone and not with nobody. But it's definitely always smart to have like the dog was a backup, just in case if anyone pops up.
The dog is Buddy's idea.
Correct.
That dog's there in case the guy wakes up. There's backup for Buddy. The dog can help. I mean, and plus, look how well trained that dog is. What dog do you know is going to sit there at the door and wait for your ass while you're in there for 45 minutes going through shit?
Exactly. He was standing.
That dog just sat there and held his ground or her ground, and that tells you that dog was more than just a regular pet. The dog was a pet, but it was a well-trained pet.
Right.
And that was not, Jimmy's dog. That was Buddy's dog.
Right. Exactly.
And so give kudos to Buddy for having a well-trained dog, if that was his dog. But the dog just sat there at the door like, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Exactly.
But the guy's passed out, and what we see is Buddy goes in, pictures of the IDs, goes through, takes pictures of the checkbook with all the all the IDs, the credit cards, the bank accounts, any other personal papers, and slips everything back while the guy's passed out on the couch, which is convenient because the guy could have went to his bedroom, which could have been upstairs. That would have been more of a hassle, but luckily the way the script was written, that he just passes out in the living room, the same place as his desk. So there wasn't a lot of running around to do, but still it was fun to watch.
And we saw this is pretty much Gene's idea of doing getting back at the game. This this is his thing. I mean, this is what Gene does. And it looks
Well,
like I forgot that Gene actually has, I mean, put himself another character in, or I should say another name in the pot. I think he calls himself at the bar. I forgot to mention that. I think he called himself Victor.
yeah, his name is Victor.
Yep.
And the thing is he's getting his money's thing too. I mean, he lost his money in the Cayman Islands, and he has to. I mean, that's why he had to had to go back to Jeff. He know that his money is all disappearing, and he has to keep it. He just can't live off the Cinnabon money if he
Nope, he
wants to
sure
keep
can.
up, because
If somebody
eventually
needs to call,
he's
he
not going to
might
be
get
able to
called.
afford that place he's living at if he has to rely on Cinnabon money. You can't rent a house on Cinnabon money.
Nope.
So, he's, so he's, so something he probably wants to do it, but there's always some reason he has to financially to keep the money coming in.
Yeah, I agree with that. That makes perfect sense because it is true. Because he, like you mentioned, he lost a lot of stuff when he out of Albuquerque. So a lot of things are not tied in no more. So he does need some type of money, and just in case if someone actually finds him like Jeff did, he got to have money enough to actually go somewhere else because the guy mentioned to him that it's double. So he really would need a lot of money if that was a case where he gets marked again by someone else, not just Jeff, by someone else. So it was definitely something that Gene needed to do to make sure he has enough money so he's comfortable.
Yeah, you're right. And so and plus he finds out that all his businesses are shut down, so he doesn't have that. He can't even call them.
No,
Not that he can
no,
do anything with them anyway, because the feds are watching. If they weren't closed down, the feds would still be watching them.
yes, yep,
So
yep. He was stuck. He was definitely stuck. And
right,
this is actually which I mean we mentioned it before, but I guess we can mention it again. Now this is when they do go back into as far as the episode and how the episode was run. I know we're doing the rewatch and everything, but this is when they discuss when they go back in color with Walt, Jesse, and and Saul in the RV. And this is what we mentioned about the with the light, the car, and also when Jimmy was asking who's Lalo. He asked
yeah,
that question to him. Hey, who's Lalo? Who's this
yeah,
character Lalo?
yeah, you're right.
So this is that this is where as far as in the show, this is where they had that little discussion.
So yeah, so you're right. So and there they are taking the money out of the, there he is doing that. So and then he puts everything back. So it's all
Yep,
part of the scam right there,
yep, that's the mark.
So
Exactly.
so where's everything at? It's all, but yeah. So that's part of the scam right there. See, and everything is going according to plan. Everything's right now. Everything as usual. When it first starts out, everything goes smooth as silk. But we
Exactly.
know this is a Jimmy plan, so there's going to be a hiccup eventually.
Always, yes, always. And one thing after they from there they like I mentioned they went and talked to Walt and Walt, Jesse, and Saul. And I like at the end of this was a really good touch where they showed the little burial ground of scaring Saul of that if you don't do what we said, we're gonna kill you. It had the little burial ground, and I like how the camera work was awesome with this scene where they showed it, and then they go back into the black and white scene where they see Gene laying on his bed just thinking about what he's doing with the schemers. I'm not sure if you remember that part where it goes from the color part and switch back to the black and white, and you
Oh yeah,
kind of
but
see
that's later on too. So it's but I know what you're talking about, and so it's but that's a ways off yet, and I think it is maybe not. Well,
no.
actually,
This was it.
what it reminded me of was a scene that you might see from Scrooge, where you're getting that transition from when Ebenezer meets the third ghost and they're in the graveyard and he's scaring them to death, saying, "Well, who is that? Is that me? Am I dead?" And then it transitions from Ebenezer from the graveyard to he wakes up and going, "What day is it?" Can I? He says, he doesn't know what day it is. He's been visited by three ghosts and he didn't know it all happened in one night or what. So that's what I know. But that kind of what it reminded me of was a Christmas Carol type of deal, where you're in the grave but yeah, it was a great transition because you see him laying at the bottom of there, and then it fades into him laying in his bed.
Exactly.
So that was kind of cool to see that transition. That was a very good transition.
Exactly. And then I believe we go back into them scamming others. I mean, we saw the process of him doing a lot of scamming of the process of getting him in the bar, being friends with him in a bar, and trying to actually do that, get him in a cab. And we saw lots of different angles or different people. And I believe
Right.
then into a one particular person that Gene was talking to, and they were talking in a bar, and then he mentioned to him that he's taking a lot of pills. He was mentioning to him that, God, I mean, you're taking a lot of pills and everything, and it's like, are those like vitamin pills? And he mentioned to him, but no, these are actually cancer pills. And
Right.
he was kind of wondering, or Gene was like wondering, it's like questioning, hey, I mean, you're drinking alcohol with these cancer pills, like what's going on? And I can kind of see Gene a little bit like scratching his head because he he knows, as we know with Walter White, it's kind of something he can think about, that he had another person that was a cancer victim too. So it's kind of apropos or surprising to see this come up, and how Gene was kind of looking at him and kind of wondering about the cancer.
Right.
So it's interesting where they were doing that and talking and everything. But even with that, Gene is Gene. No matter what, he's gonna do what he has to do, and he started doing the scheme with this guy and finishing off and taking him into the cab.
So that was your scene there with the
With him in the bed. Yeah,
graveyard and that. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, he's at the cancer. And then when Buddy finds out that he has cancer, I don't want to do the cancer guy. He has cancer, I don't want to do it. And Gene's like, just because someone's died of cancer doesn't mean they're an asshole. That does not mean they're not an asshole. Right? I mean, Gene doesn't see anything wrong with it because of how his going back to Walter White with cancer. Well, Walter had cancer, but yet he almost got me killed, so who cares, right? So yeah. So but Buddy doesn't want to do it. So Gene fires him. And then he says, "Okay, Jeff, get ready." And Jeff's like, "What?" Because Jeff's never done this damn thing before. Jeff doesn't, Jeff's been the cab driver the whole time.
exactly.
But now Gene's going to do it himself, and that's how the scene. And we also get another another insight of Jimmy going back to the high school to see Walter. Because remember, Mike, he has a conversation with Mike as we get back to the color part, where well, Jimmy gets another massage thing. Well, anyway, Mike is talking about well, Walter White, he's got cancer and everything, and Mike's trying to warn him off, saying even if he was healthy, he's bad news. He's amateurist. You don't want to have anything to do with him. And Jimmy's like, "Well, I got my gut feeling about this guy. I think he can be something, right? I mean, that's the whole thing, right?"
Yes, that's
And
what Jimmy was thinking.
and Mike's like, "No." So that's when and then Mike. I mean, and that's when Saul goes back to the college, meets up. You have another visitation at the high school. Going back to the Breaking Bad days, he comes back in and starts and finds him again at the high school, which was which was nice. I wonder, them going back to some of the same sets or same places that they did during Breaking Bad, revisiting them in this episode. That was kind of cool too to see some of the old stomping grounds.
It was.
So here's Mike going to see him, and we all know what and there's Saul on his massage thing. That's it. When if you're ever having an appointment with Saul and he says he's busy, you know what he's doing.
Yes. Yeah. And Mike was not really into that at all. I mean, he told him if we're going to talk about business, I need you to get off of that sucker. That's what he told him.
Well, he's like, well, you can do it. You threatened to hit him in the face again.
Exactly.
He's like, well, you can get off that thing, or I can kick you in the head. So, it was Mike being Mike.
Exactly.
So that was kind of funny.
It was.
So, and
I think one thing that was surprising as far as what I saw was how Buddy was really reacting to Gene and also to Jeff as far as his reaction to the idea of doing this scam to this cancer guy. He felt so bad about it. And I believe what happened is that Buddy just really couldn't do it. He felt in his gut that it's just not a good thing to do. And partially Jeff felt, I guess you can see in Jeff's eyes, he felt both ways. He felt like he can understand Buddy's point of view, and then he can also understand Gene's point of view.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to put my foot through your skull. So that's what that's what Mike was saying there. But you're right. Gene didn't want to. I mean, Buddy didn't want to do it, so he got fired. Jeff was like, see both sides of it, so he was playing on the fence. So
exactly.
So that's how that ended. Buddy's done. So Saul wants to keep doing it. So the episode ends with Saul breaking the glass to go into the apartment or the house to get the stuff done.
Exactly. And Jeff had that very important situation where I believe what he mentioned to Saul when they were and one thing was pretty interesting too, is when seeing them going in the taxi, before he broke the glass, they were in the taxi. And that's kind of how they met before. And Jeff asked Gene's like, are we sure you want to really do this? Because I mean, you gave him that stuff a couple hours ago. It's like you think he might be still like, I mean, he might woke up. So it's kind of interesting that Jeff was giving him that question to Gene's like, are you sure you want to do this anyway? And like you mentioned, Gene said, I mean, Gene didn't care. He said, we're going to go back and finish this job. And that's, like you mentioned before, that's when he broke the glass. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how we lead
Oh yeah,
into
because
the
after the
episode.
cab scene, we go back to the high school.
Yes.
So I mean, so they have the discussion. Then we go back to the high school, and Saul is going, and he's talking to the guy, talking to Walter there at the high school again. You know,
Yes. It kind of leads up to it, which is great. I love how they do the segue into this episode compared to the episode in Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. This was kind of before he was actually walking towards the the school, and he saw the science fair and everything, and he saw we actually even saw, we didn't know. I mean, if you've seen the episode, you saw Walt's car in the handicap section, and while he was walking towards the school, and
yeah,
then in Breaking Bad, we'll see what happens.
yeah. And there's the high school, JP Wynn.
Exactly, the science fair. Yes.
So that's that. And so another extended scene, because we know that happened in Breaking Bad, but here we have another extended scene with him and Walter. So
Exactly. If you go back into Breaking Bad, that episode, you'll definitely see
yeah,
that was the
so that's where,
introduction.
yeah, that's him. That's so that just shows him walking, up to the high school. We don't get actually go inside again, but this is what I guess this all comes to. Okay, he's changed his mind. This is when he. This also tells us how he got the information with Walter being a high school teacher too. I mean, we know Mike fed him the information now.
Correct.
So, and so let's go back. Now, remember they played when Gene was getting all those guys. They were playing that music for the montage, all the different people he was setting up. Right? Remember the music?
Yes.
That song there. So
Fine girl.
no. I'm talking the montage, not the karaoke, but the
Oh,
montage
okay.
when Buddy kept going into these different places. They were
Oh,
playing the
that
song.
okay.
Yeah,
Please share.
huh?
Please share with us.
Well, that
Or
song
share
was
with me.
okay. So here we go. The song is called Tapioca Thunder by Michael Nesmith of the Monkees. There's a demo. It was the B-side of Valerie. They're one of the Monkey hits.
Wow.
And so that's what that song was. And for one of the writers, one of the lines in there was very, was a very appropriate song for what was going on. So that was the song for this episode. Not so that was. There's always some kind of music going on that we research, and that was the montage there.
Right.
And what Michael found out was that whether it's the A side or the B side, it pays the same royalty. So even though Valerie was probably the hit, he still got the same amount of money for the B side that he wrote, because he wrote that song. It wasn't just the Valerie. They did not. I mean, they performed it, but they didn't write that song. That's before they were able to kick everybody out and write their own stuff. But anyway, there was a line in there that one of the lyrics that made the song. Because one of the creators is a Monkees fan, so he remembered that, and that's why that song got put in there during the montage when Buddy was going through. And it kept showing Buddy going into different homes, like that show that this was a whole, it was a hobby thing that they were doing. More of a hobby, it was like habitual. They were like, oh yeah, we're doing it. We're making all this money. And also, remember the scene there where we get to see the old home to where, remember Walter would always put money in the wall or in that grate thing in his the vent. We saw Saul do that with his money too. Remember that scene there where you see him looking in and he's stacking his money in the vent in his wall.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
It's the same thing that Walt did. Remember?
Yep, in his basement, where he cleaned up his basement and he had the
No, it was in his kid's bedroom. Remember, it was in Holly's bedroom.
Oh, okay.
The basement. Oh, eventually he went to under the house. There was no basement in his house. That was like there are no basements in the desert.
Like crawl space, like a little crawl.
I don't think there's any basements in the desert, but I could be wrong about that. But yeah, that was the crawl space. But when he first got started, remember he's putting his money in the vent there in Holly's
baby diaper.
Yeah, he also put it in the vent.
Yes.
Everything, but the baby diaper thing was temporary because the money kept getting blown around. So
right.
But still, there was that homage part there where he was following in Walter's footsteps and putting it. But then Saul hid his money too in his office. Remember, he had his money hidden in that in his wall too as well. Remember, all his money was hidden in a wall in his office. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
So there was a lot of things that happened but that with Gene though, that also then goes back to Breaking Bad because Walt did that with his money, putting it in the vent in Holly's room until he started putting it underneath in the crawl space.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of things there, a lot of Easter eggs, I guess you would say, in this episode.
I agree with you.
Oh, excuse me. So
thank you for the like. I appreciate whoever sent the like. Thank you so much.
So who sent us a like? It was Roger. So as I got Gene stashing his money, and see, there he is. See that? So that's a Walter White thing too, putting his money in the vent.
Exactly.
Now that house probably has a basement since in the Midwest. That's the Midwest where you can have a basement. So I don't know if you can, but anyway, I don't know. To me, I guess, but I think of New Mexico as a desert. Maybe you can't.
Yeah, it might have been a crawl space actually.
But I know that Walt had a crawl space. There was no basement underneath their house.
Right.
I don't know. It depends. I don't know if you can have a basement in the desert. I guess you can dig a hole, but I don't know how well. I don't know. It doesn't matter. All I know is they had a crawl space. And that's. So I guess if they have a tornado in Albuquerque, he's shit out of luck. He only has a crawl space, not a cellar to hide in. So.
Right.
So anyway, it doesn't matter. It was another good episode. Is there anything else? Did we miss anything here? Anything else you wanted to go back to that I rushed you through? I don't know what.
No, I think the process of us going back and forth with the black and white through this episode was great. I will say one thing that I know it's on this ending of this episode is that it ended in the black and white. And it was pretty cool how the credits at the end of the episode was in black and white also. So it was really cool how at the end of this one, they kind of still continue leading on to the black and white scenario of it, which was pretty cool because it ended black and white where we saw Gene breaking that window to go back into that house to continue with the scam with the cancer guy. So
what do you mean black and white? The ending's always been black and white.
No, as far as the black and white, we get the color, we have color, and then we have black and white. And black and white
when Gene breaks the glass.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
that was this episode.
I got you. Yeah, okay. So you're just saying that it ended in black and white, but last episode did the same thing because the whole thing was black and white. with the mall and them doing their thing.
Right.
So I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to say there. That it ended in black and white. I just don't.
I mean, the credits. I mean, maybe it was like that. Maybe I caught it this time. I didn't catch it last time, but the credits were normally it's in yellow, where you see the.
Oh, so like you're saying everything
Yeah.
was, that the credits were black and white. That the font was white.
Exactly.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Exactly. I'm not sure if the last episode was like that or not. I need to check and see, do a rewatch for myself, but I just caught it this time.
I didn't even think about that. I usually, well, if you're watching Netflix, you don't really get to see it because it goes almost straight to the next one anyway. You don't really get to watch it.
You get that little episode warning. It's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and
then you're done. So I mean, usually you don't pay much. At least I don't. I mean, sometimes you do, but I see what you're saying. So let's have a look here.
But I believe with this episode,
yeah, it was black and white. It was black and white last time too.
Okay.
So I just looked real quick. But it doesn't matter. I guess it's credit. It depends. Sometimes it's fun to see if they switch it around to match an episode or not. I see what you're saying.
Exactly.
So, so it was a very good episode. We got flashbacks. We got to see Walter. I got to see Mike too, which was good. Mike's always fun to watch.
Always good.
Michael's always good. He's always good. Whatever dialogue they give him, he always says it right. He does a great job at it. And Mike's always the gruff.
Exactly.
I can either leave or I can kick your head in. So he doesn't give you much of a choice, does he? He's just like whatever it is, dude. So like I said, a lot of things went on in this episode, even though it was mostly, it's kind of weird how some of this is basically one thing for the last 2 episodes. I mean, last episode it was the mall, but this one, at least we mix it up with going back to Albuquerque, plus ripping off rich white folk. That or let live alone. So this would teach white privileged folk not to go to the bar, get drunk, and then take water from the cabbie.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't take and maybe you want to get your own dog or something, so they just can't walk in and just rob you blind. But yeah, and the thing, I guess, it kind of bothered me too. It didn't bother me, but it was always so funny how easily they would take the bottle of water from the cabbie. You want some water? Yeah. Blah blah blah. I mean, it's like, oh, what are you doing? You don't know this guy.
That trust factor. It seemed like that trust factor.
But then again, you're drunk. Plus, you're drunk, so I guess that puts your guard down a little bit. But still, they just gobbled. They just drank that. Just it's like, and then. So in a way, they got what they deserved because they were stupid. They were stupid. But yeah. But I wondered if they had to cancel any because someone refused to drink any water, though. Did they all drink water then? Did no one refuse it? I didn't.
No, I think everyone did. Everyone did. I think that was, I guess, their explanation of how he was getting away with this scam. That every single one of them did do that, and they put the tape on the door and all that. Every single one that they did, and you can even I think Gene, when Gene was talking to Buddy, he was really upset because Gene yelled at Buddy saying that I did a lot of work. I did a lot of studying on these people. I mean, I went through all these such and such, make sure they're not married and this and this and this and this. So he really explained to Buddy that, I mean, I went through a lot of like sweat to make sure whoever we're going to do with these marks that we do it and it's okay. Even if this guy has cancer, I mean, so what? That's how G's reaction was. It's like, so what? I mean, he could be a bad guy too. And that was funny in a sense also when he mentioned that he could be a bad guy too, because I think he was mentioning about Walter White, because the black and white is all after him being engaged with Walter White, which is makes it very entertaining and funny when he said that to Buddy, that even a person with cancer, they could be a bad guy too.
Yeah.
And it's a fact that Walter White, even though he didn't become bad, but he manifested himself in Breaking Bad, which is a great scene, a great series, and something definitely looking forward to us doing in the future, of us kind of talking about and marinating on the Breaking Bad series also.
Yep. There's the doggy.
That's the one we were talking about. Yep.
The dog
Mention
just sitting
how
there.
kind of just sitting there waiting for Buddy to finish up what he was doing. Whatever he was getting ready to do, just sit there and wait. And he didn't move and bustle.
What
Didn't
dog
make a
does that?
noise or anything.
Yep, that dog. That dog sat there, and the dog was there to guard the door and guard Buddy from the guy. So I mean, the dog had double duty.
Yes. Yep.
So the dog was more than a prop, like I said earlier. I mean, the dog had a purpose. So, well, I guess a prop is a purpose too, because the dog was also like I said, who's going to suspect a guy walking their dog?
Right. Right. In
Whereas
the
if Buddy was walking down the street by himself, well, that makes him suspicious.
Exactly.
But if he's walking a dog, no, it's just some guy walking his dog.
Yep.
Go to it, right? Then you
Yep,
ignore him. He's out the window, and then you ignore him, right? So yeah. So anyway, I guess I gotta go on too much about the dog, but the dog just sat there though and did the job. I thought the dog was kind of cute too. It was a cute little dog, so So maybe you can have that dog come over for a play date sometime, and then your two dogs can have a little play date, and swim in the pool, So anyway, it was how long would it take you to find people if you're like going out? Thinking that if you were going to start doing that right now, Jay, and you're going to look for guys to rob, just think how long it would take you to people you'd have to talk to get to know, to get the lowdown and get them to talk to you and get them to trust you enough to talk to you about like, well, I live, to get that info.
Exactly.
Because these are because this is a lot of bouncing around in a bar.
It was.
Person to person.
Yep.
And and you think about it, why are they all guys? Well, it's easier to go up and talk to a guy than it is because a woman's going to think you're hitting on them, and you're not going to get any information if they don't like you. Whereas a guy, you start drinking with them, you start talking about the right subject, well, then they're going to talk to you. I mean, remember, what we didn't get to hear was that every time you talked to somebody, it was about whatever they did. And Gene was also doing the same thing he did with the Cinnabon guard, talking football. At first, he's like, okay, and then he learned the game. But then, now he's doing the same thing with his mark. So he'll say, I do something. Oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then he acts like he knows what they're talking about. And then, I guess, as they keep meeting up, he finds out more and then can get, and it must take time. I don't think these marks, this isn't a one-time thing. He doesn't meet him in the bar and then the same night they go rob him.
No.
This
we
takes
see it all together, but it's a lot of work, a lot of sweat and tears that he went through to get this set up for every single man.
That's what we don't see, though. We don't see.
No, we don't.
I mean, we see the montage with Buddy going to all the different houses, but we don't see the montage of Gene, of the hit and misses that it takes just to find the one mark.
Right.
And that's what we don't see.
No, we don't.
And
see
we don't know if Gene went out every night cruising for victims, or if we don't know how often he did it. but still every night it take me. It comes to where, oh my gosh, I mean, it's still a job. You're not going out for fun because you're
No.
looking for marks. You're hoping for a payday. Because Gene, even though he's some of these guys are acting, maybe becoming friends with, there's not going to be any relationship there. There's not going to be any, okay, we're going to, once Gene's done with them, they're done. There's no more relationship. He's back home alone.
Yes. Listening to the radio, making sure there's nothing happening in his neighborhood.
Yeah. And so right now there's only two, I guess, friends, if you want to call them that, are Jeff and Buddy.
That's it.
And they're not really his friends.
Nope.
they're just people he hangs out with to get to do jobs with. So.
Yep. And Marilyn is kind of a friend, or I should say, Marilyn wants to be friends with Gene.
Yeah, Marion,
yes.
Yeah, Marion. Well, she does, but he's using her to get the Jeff. So he doesn't look at it that way either. I mean, he's just like, okay, I'll go over that way. So she's just a means to an end. So he's even using her. Poor old Carol Burnett's getting used by Gene too. So, I mean, and that's what Gene is doing in Omaha mostly, is using people.
He always does. Yeah, he uses their skills.
And he doesn't have any friends at the Cinnabon.
Nope.
I mean, he works with them, and maybe they're nice to each other, but they don't hang out afterwards.
Nope, at all. And he's a manager, so he should be able to be friends with other folks because they're dealing with them. But no.
Yeah, true, but still, sometimes you hang out together when you work with people. You still hang out, but when you're a manager, I guess you don't. But that wasn't always the case. But still, they can still be friends with them. But he doesn't seem to be friends with them. They're kind to each other. Maybe they kind of, but there's still no kind of friendships that he's developed.
No, none at all. From all these times, none. It's all like you mentioned, being used.
He's all alone with in Omaha.
Yep, in Omaha.
So he's in Nebraska, all alone. So
trying to get more money so he can make sure he's okay and safe. And if he needs to leave again, he'll have enough money to use that money to go somewhere else.
Exactly.
Maybe go to Missouri.
Well, he can't go. He's not going to go anywhere. He's not going to go anywhere else. He's done. He's stuck there.
Yeah.
No matter what he does, he's not going to raise enough money to get a new ID.
No.
So he's got to make do to where he's at. He's gonna. I mean, he can take his new ID and move somewhere else, but he can't change it. I mean, he's not stuck in Omaha. I mean, he could always move away and be Gene somewhere else. But then again, he's got to be able to fake people out. I mean, remember when he was at the hospital and his ID wasn't going through?
Yes, that was such a nervous time with him. He almost could have had a heart attack again.
Yeah, because it wasn't going, because it's fake. It all looked legit on the outside, but if you start going in doing a deep dive on that, you're going to find out, well, it's not coming up as anything. Right. So you can't look too closely. And who knows if he went to get another job, how much of his, what else does he have? He can't just put Cinnabon. What have you been doing for 20 years? Nothing before. Oh, nothing before that. I was a hobo. So, I mean, what are you going to do? And he can't use his education, can't do anything. I don't know how far what kind of backstory he has and how far it can hold up. Because he got the Cinnabon somehow, but I'm sure he can't put references on there and have people call him up and say, yeah, he worked here. Right. No. He had nothing. Zero. He didn't have a person he didn't have Francesca to answer the phone and say, to pretend to be somebody anymore.
Right.
And so he is kind of stuck because he can't move on because he doesn't have really any kind of back. Because, well, right now in this day and age, you just can't move about like you can back 40 years ago, where you can move around and kind of fake your way through. Now you can't really fake your way through. In this day and age, you can't fake your way through. You can't go bounce around job to job anonymously. You have to, you just can't do it anymore. No, and is that driver license going to hold up when you have to get it copied for when you get hired nowadays for the last 20 to 30 years, where you fill out, you have to prove that you are a citizen with some kind of ID. You just can't, it's a lot different nowadays than back when I first started out, where you just filled out an application and got hired. Now it's so different. Now it's like, it's not so easy anymore.
No, not at all.
I mean,
they do like a background check.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you back in the Hulk TV series back in the 70s, 80s, Bruce Banner would go town to town getting different jobs. There's no way he could do that today. He can't go job to job, just walk in someplace and get hired in without a background check and then make yourself at home. It doesn't work that way anymore. So those days of Bill Bixby are gone. I don't know if you ever got to see that show, that TV series, but Bill Bixby, he was able to go town to town and not worry about it with his bag full of shirts. So, but anyway, so he's kind of stuck. So anyway, we got only 2 more episodes to go.
Yes. We're getting down to the finale.
Yeah,
the finale of Better Call Saul, and it's called Waterworks.
Yep, that's true. And just to let people know that even though Better Call Saul is coming to an end, Jay and I are not coming to an end, because next month we're going to review some of our favorite scary movies for Halloween. Right, Jay?
Yes. Looking forward to that.
So we will spend 5 weeks. We will have a special guest do a film maybe for us. So it won't just be Jay and I. We will have a special guest join us as we do our Oktoberfest of scary movies. Yes, sir, Bob. So a major crush on Bill.
Really?
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
Yes, he was. And it was too bad that he had to leave us too soon.
Yes.
But he had a long career in TV. He started out early, My Favorite Martian. Then the other show, I can't remember, The Courtship of Eddie's Father. Is that correct? And then they did the Incredible Hulk TV series and a few made for TV movies. So,
Yeah, I remember Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, so he had a long career too, through doing TV. So, and he was a good actor, and it was always cool to see him get angry and have his eyes turn green.
Yes.
And and remember that was all contact. There was no fake right there. He had to put contacts in and have and then Lou Ferrigno had to be painted green and all that stuff. So I mean, it was there were no special effects back then. So that was all makeup.
Exactly. Yep.
So that was cool. So I believe I agree with you. He was an incredible actor.
Oh, you're so kind, Lord. You're so kind.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
two more to
I
go.
think so.
So, like you said, what tomorrow? Next week's is Waterworks, not
Waterworks. Waterworks.
Waterfalls. Yeah. So,
Yes, Waterworks.
anything?
I am looking forward to that episode. I mean that episode a lot. It's as the title states, is true Waterworks. So it's gonna be a really good episode to to discuss and kind of marinate and discuss all the things that's going on that episode.
Right. And before we go, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell.
Yeah,
He's got his own bell too. We each got our own bell, which is
there
awesome.
you go.
Yeah, we each got our own bell. So I don't have anything else to add to this episode. I think we went through it pretty well, and it was an interesting episode. And I did get us a picture of the dog, which is always important.
Exactly.
But so that being said, I have no more. So hopefully we'll catch you all next Sunday at 6.
Yes, please do. And if you watching this later on, if you have any questions or anything that we discuss or anything, please put them out there. And that subscribe button, like you said, let's make it happen. I'm honored here to do a rewatch with my buddy Richard.
Oh, I am too.
Boy, doing this. So if you have any questions or anything like that, please share. And share with other folks too. Share. We got 2 more episodes, and we're going to do the Halloween in October. Share. So that's my little spiel.
Yep. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell them that we're here and we're alone. we're almost like Gene, all alone in Omaha.
Yeah. Yep.
But we have our friend the cat here, so that makes us all excited. So everyone have a great week. And we'll catch you next week at 6.
All right. Take care, guys.